That sector is very weird and new in sustainability because people think you as a bank don't have any impact on the people or the environmental. It's not only the environment, it's a circle. And if we take serious sustainability, the benefit is not for the environment, the benefit is for us as a humanity. We are not saving the Mother Earth.
We're saving ourselves.
Exactly. I have worked with companies, they manage their impacts very well, but people don't know about that. We as a millennial, we think about the job in a different way than our parents were. And now we need a purpose. So this kind of the sustainability calls social responsibility.
We want to be involved in something that's bigger than ourselves. Of course, we want to make money. So.
Excuse me. Sustainability is also money.
Talk about it.
Companies used to think sustainability is a cost because they think environmental, blah, blah, blah. If you combine these three aspects, governance, social, and the purpose is get money because sustainability is, I think that plastic is not a bad thing. It's a controversial,
I know. Why? Today's guest is a sustainability consultant for top food and agriculture brands that we all know. With her background in environmental engineering, Estefania talks in this episode about how she started her career with a passion for saving the planet, but soon learned that sustainability was about so much more than the environment. She also talks about how you can ensure your business is managing its impact with a holistic perspective. So tune in, watch this episode, and you'll also hear her hot take on plastic. I'd love to hear what you think about it.
Hi, I'm Estefania, and I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for having me, Dori. I'm environmental engineering and currently master student of project management. And through the last 4 years so far, I have been working as a sustainability consultant, which means that I have had the opportunity to collaborate with different companies from different sectors to help them to make the sustainability a relevant and simple practice. And I think that's why I'm here today.
Okay, so we've got a really special guest here today. Estefania is here with us. We're going to be talking about her journey in sustainability. Her background is environmental engineering, and her story is really interesting. So thank you for being here. Super excited to talk to you.
Thank you, Dori, for having me here. I'm very excited as well.
So tell us a little bit about your reason why for getting into the sustainability space.
Well, I think when I was in high school and I was thinking that what I'm going to do with my life, that everyone, because I was very confused at the beginning, I realized that I love nature, I love maths, and I wanted to save the world. And that sounds very basic, but it was the truth. Then I found out there was a way to bring all of my passions together. So that's why I decided to study environmental engineering. And then I realized that there is not only about the environmental topics. I realized that you need so much more. And it was when I found sustainability topic which means a lot of more things, but that's why I'm here, because at the beginning I was interested in environmental and save the world and clean the water and but then I realized that it's a whole world and we can make a lot to help people, to help ecosystems, and to help us as a humanity.
Yeah, what I thought was so interesting when we grabbed coffee the other day was that your view of sustainability is more holistic. Most people think, like you were saying, you're thinking about saving the trees, saving the planet, cleaning the water. But when you say sustainability, people aren't necessarily thinking about ethics or the people. What caused that mindset shift for you?
Yes, as you know, sustainability is so much more. Sustainability is a mix between three aspects or three pillars. The first one is environmental, por supuesto, which means how you as a person or as a company can take better decisions to protect the biodiversity, to reduce your impact or your emissions in the world. And on the other hand, it's the social aspect, which means the same, how you as a company or as a person, because sustainability is for everyone and everywhere, governments, every country in general. And social aspect means how you can protect the well-being of your people. It means it can be your providers, your suppliers, your local communities, or even your clients. And the third part is the weird pillar is called governance. And governance is the practice or politics that you have on your company or in your little business to do the same, to do the things in a better way. If, for example, if you want to promote your employees, you can have a politic to write that. Or if you want to have local suppliers, you can have a strategy to follow the key suppliers and how are you going to handle that. So in short, sustainability is a mix or is a balance between that three aspects: social, environmental, and governance.
I see. So the governance aspect is more like the policy. So that can be government, but it can also be like within your business. What's your policy for like sourcing suppliers? Do they need to hit? I would assume that maybe you would say you want to have suppliers who are for women-owned businesses, or they have a certain percentage of organic material, for example.
That's perfect. And also, governance has another subject that is, for example, cybersecurity. Now, after pandemic and with intelligence artificial, for us and for every business, small or big business, cybersecurity topic is very important. And now the governance has the opportunity to create or to protect your company with that issues.
I see. So artificial intelligence is the word that she said in Spanish, but we might have a little bit of Spanglish here. But it's interesting because you wouldn't necessarily think about like AI or tech or cybersecurity in the umbrella of the sustainability world. So I know that you worked in so many different industries with your role as a consultant for sustainability. So you were sharing that you've done some in the banking space and agriculture. So tell us about like what that looks like in like the banking space first, the finance space. But I think what's most interesting and what you like the most too is the agriculture
side. Okay. Yeah. We can start with the bank. The bank, that sector is very weird and new in sustainability because people think you as a bank don't have any impact on the people or the environmental. But the bank defines rules to that companies can get the money. That means you're a key stakeholder in the environment, you know? Yeah. So now the government, for example, here in Colombia, and I know in Europe in general, they have now many rules for the banks because it's a key player in the ecosystem.
Because they're financing all the huge projects.
Exactly.
So it's like, I imagine the government has some incentives or restrictions for the banks, and then the banks have some incentives or restrictions for the companies that they fund.
Exactly. The best example for that maybe is the net zero or emission reductions with climate change. So if I'm a company and I need to invest in, I don't know, for example, new cars or new things for my business, I can have a loan and say to the bank, okay, I want to apply to green industry, but I need you give me better interest in. So it's a win-win because the bank are complying the mandatory regulations, and you as a client or as a big or little company or little business are winning with reduce your effort to do that.
Okay. I see. So you have like the monetary incentives to get the better interest rate on your funding. I see. So you've done some work on the banking side, and now you're primarily working on the agriculture side. So what does that look like? What are some interesting projects that you're doing now?
Agricultural projects, because it's a perfect mix between environment and finance or economic impacts. I mean, are located far away from the cities. I mean, in the campo, in the farm areas.
Rural,
exactly.
Yeah.
So they also are a important player in that zone because people can have a job in the beginning. So you can see the social aspect over there.
Yeah.
I mean, human rights are very important. And for example, sugarcane used to have many issues with human rights before, but now, thanks to the sustainability, to the governments, and thanks to the customers, as you, as me, are demanding for better human rights practice to this kind of people who works on the land. On the other hand, they have to manage their impacts very well because they need a lot of water to produce the sugar, for example, and also they have a huge circular economy system. So in that case, I can see that they hold sustainability, and I can learn a lot about environment, about communities, about policies. Mm-hmm. That's why I really like that kind of sector.
I see. So for those who don't know, how would you describe what the circular economy is?
In a simple way, circular economy means how you can reduce your waste in the whole circle. I mean, from the design of your product, and then when people have in your hands the product, how can the people waste the product or the package in a good way? Mm-hmm. So circular economy try to avoid the waste as 90% if you want. And for example, in this kind of industry, sugarcane, for example, they use the sugarcane, the leaves, the roots, everything to produce energy. So it's a reduce of waste, and also have environmental benefits as energy, green energy, which is sustainability as well. And also people could have better job opportunities on the countryside, mm-hmm. which is not normal. For example, here in Colombia, people have low opportunities of work, like operations, mm-hmm. and that kind of works don't pay very well as if you are an engineer or solar engineer, for example.
Yeah. Interesting. So you were talking a little bit about how the popularity or the push for sustainability has changed a lot in the agriculture space for the people who would be working the land. I'm curious about what you have seen personally in terms of those changes, even in the time that you've been working in sustainability. So you said that thanks to sustainability and customers wanting things to be more sustainably sourced and things of that nature, it's changed for the people who are working on the land that you've seen just from your work in the time that you've been.
I love that question because it's one of my passions about human rights, good employee practice. And as I told you, now the perspective is very different, but 20 years ago, it was different because indigenous people used to work in the lands or in the fields, and they, as indigenous or as low qualified employees, don't have or can access to a contract.
Okay.
And they can have without job in any time. And now, thanks to and for example, a farmer or a company like sugarcane, for example, they have to provide to this big company, for example, a soda company, they have to provide that their employee practices are good, are with the law. And that's why they have to have, for example, the legal work time, mm-hmm. which is here in Colombia 8 hours per day. But before it used to be 15 hours per day and under the sun, because there were campesinos, which is this kind of people who works on the land and who works very, very hard and don't get a real pay for that, mm-hmm. for example.
And they wouldn't have the security of working with the contract.
Exactly. They don't used to have health insurance. And on the other hand, this is new, not only on the agriculture sector, but this is my favorite example. On the past, women can have participation on work, this kind of work, because they have to stay with the child, prepare the meals, and But now, the industry and people and all as a customers realize that we are so much more, and that as a man, we can work so hard. I mean, not with the same conditions because we are not the same. We are women and men, but that we demonstrate that we can work so hard as well, and then we can occupy roles that before we can have that. So I love that. Not only in this industry, for example, with financial sector, now thanks to the governance pillar of the sustainability, it's almost mandatory that your board is 50-50. It's not only here in Colombia. No mandatory, but we are close about that. So because years before, you only see VPs, some men, and that's it.
Yeah, that's amazing. And again, like I wouldn't necessarily think about that under sustainability, but it's like what you were talking about with the circular economy. You have the start of something. How does it impact everything around it? And even talking from the product perspective, your packaging, what happens when the customer is using it, what happens when it's time to throw it away. So it's like all the things outside of the product itself. And I guess the same thing goes for sustainability. So it's how does everything connect together? Yeah.
Everything is connected because it's not only the environment, it's a circle, you know? And if we take serious sustainability, the benefit is not for the environment. The benefit is for us as a humanity, you know?
At the end of the day.
At the end of the day, exactly. We are not saving the Mother Earth. That sounds very cute, but
we're saving ourselves.
Exactly.
So some of our listeners have their own business and they want to improve like their ethical practices. What are some of the things that you've learned in your role that would translate to someone's business?
So by role, I have learned some tips. The first one, for example, is that not all the messages are made for all types of audiences. You know, I mean, if you are a small business or even a big company, you need to identify who are your stakeholders. And I know stakeholders is a very technical word, which means you have to identify who are your people, who are your providers, if your providers are locals or is on the foreigners, who are your employees, if you have a mother in your team, who are your customers. And then when you identify that, you have to be sure what I want to communicate to what kind of public. Because, for example, your customers or your clients, maybe they are interested to know more about your environmental practices or where is your raw material comes from. But maybe your employees, they are interested to know how I can grow on this company and things like that, you know? So you have to choose the correct message because not everyone want to know the whole things about your business.
Yeah. And it's so important, like tailoring your message to who you're speaking to. As we were talking about the other day, the way you talk to your customers in terms of your sustainable practices, the things that they care about is probably going to be different than the people that you have to report to. If you have like requirements that you have to meet by law, they'll probably want something more academic. They'll want to see the whole stats and reports. But your customers, they want something that's more bite-sized, more digestible.
Exactly. If the government is asking to you to report, for example, yes, you should have a long paper. But if your clients want to know, I don't know, maybe who is your community or how are you helping to your local community? Maybe a paper is not the best idea. Maybe you should have a video or maybe you should use social media, for example. So that's also a thing that I do as a sustainability consultant is to create the various strategies for communicating sustainability because that's the key as well. Because, for example, I have worked with companies that they manage their impacts very well, but people don't know about that. And yeah, it's important to the gestión, to the manage is important.
Yeah.
But why, if you have the resources, why you don't have to, why you don't communicate that kind of aspects?
Yeah, because I think what we're seeing is like a big mindset shift in terms of how consumers think. People are asking questions like, where do products come from? Who's making it? Or like, what's involved in the process? So communicating it to the customers and the end users is such a added value point too. And like you were saying, the end user, they're not going to read a whole report. They're not going to read all that. Exactly. Like a dissertation or like an academic paper. No, they want something bite-sized, and the video is like a perfect way to do that.
And you can communicate with not only with numbers, for example. I mean, to your shareholders, you have to communicate your numbers, absolutely. Right. But me as a customer, maybe I want to see a photo, or maybe I want to see to your local producer speaking about how you can help this little business, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
That's the point.
And I like that you said even for your employees, so people who are on your team. So one of our last guests, Steve Reese from Water is Basic, he was talking about how if you're committed to something, whether it be donating each year or some area of giving back, sustainability, whatever it is, it has to be infiltrated throughout the whole company. So everybody on the team has to have that buy-in. So of course they're going to want to know, how can I grow in the company, but also like how is the work that each individual is doing contributing to like the larger mission?
Wow, that's a very good point. We as a millennial, we think about the job in a different way than our parents, for example.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah, and now we need a purpose. So this kind of the sustainability calls social responsibility. It's like a subject. And yeah, that's true. We as a young people, as a millennials, for us, it's so much better if we are working with a purpose. And that's why, for example, the bank sector, they have a very, very big problem, like retaining talent, because people don't want to stay in front of a laptop the whole day.
Okay.
So yeah, that's very important. It's not only that, if you also have good growth opportunities in your job, if your voice can be listened on the board, for example, or something like that, that's so much more for us and so much more, of course, for the business.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting about like the way that people's minds are shifting is that we want to be involved in something that's bigger than ourselves. Of course, we want to make money, you know. We want to like have a good lifestyle.
Excuse me. Sustainability is also money. That's a very
talk about it.
That's a very, very good point, because people used to think, or companies used to think, sustainability is a cost because they think environmental, blah, blah, blah. But no, if you combine these three aspects, governance, social, and environmental, the purpose is get money, because sustainability is how to make my business, cómo hacer que mi negocio perdure en el tiempo.
How can you make it last longer?
Exactly, and one is super important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So tell me about like your family growing up. Like, did they have an influence in you being interested in nature, or what was that like for you?
No, it's a very good question because I love nature.
We were just talking when you came in, like you always seem to be going on a hike, swimming in a river.
Every weekend. But my Instagram, I post otro charco. Charco means like a little river. So I said every weekend, every charco. And yes, I love nature. I'm from Medellin, but my parents and my whole family are from the town. It's a little town close to Medellin. And yes, that's why I feel very comfortable with Mother Nature, with Pachamama.
So we left off talking about the challenges that you face as a consultant. So first, tell a little bit about what your role is like working between the company and local communities.
And yes, and not only with the local communities, I would like to start with my role as the external part between big companies and employees, or the communities as well, but also with the government. Well, in my role as a sustainability consultant, I have to work between both stakeholders, for example, communities and big companies, or governance and medium business, for example. But with the, for example, with the big companies, I have had a little big issue, and it's me as a younger woman it's hard to, for example, a CEO or a VP believes in my criteria or believes in me as a consultant or as a person who should know about that kind of things. And so that's still hard now, less than before, but I think that's still a problem. Like, I mean, you are younger, you are a woman, and I'm not sure if you can do your work. And like, I know what I'm talking about.
You know your stuff.
Exactly, I know my stuff. I sure you know about your company. Of course, that's why I'm here, because I want to help you with your stuff. So that is still another good aspect about my job in general. And I am really sure that not only that happens not only with me. I'm sure that it happens with people from other careers or women for other careers. And now, like, little by little, we are taking a space in that aspect.
Yeah.
Another issue that I could say is that kind of companies or that kind of sectors that think that climate change is not true. And they think that it's only about the compliance things. And they say like, I know that's fake, but let's do it because I have to do it because the government is asking about that. No, I mean, you're paying me for that. If you don't want my acknowledgement about that, is your thing. But I like to explain to the people, his employees, executive management, for example, that climate change is real and that you have to be prepared for that, because that can affect your company in the future, or the future is now, but that can affect your company very hard if you are not prepared for that and not only complying the governance mandatory asks.
I was curious, really, in your day-to-day, are you typically working with people who are aware of like the importance, or do you find yourself educating a lot?
I have to educate in a lot. It's a shame because that companies or any kind of business don't think like sustainability is a part of the strategy. And I think the key is that little area that usually have many responsibilities, not all sustainability or environmental things. They have to do a lot of things. They have to manage human resources, compliance area, the communication and stuff. But the best scenario will be that sustainability take part of the board of the bigger decisions. So in my day-to-day as a consultant in my job, I have, and I like that, I have to educate, like, sustainability is important. You should take responsibility about your actions, but it can also provide you benefits, like economic benefits, of course. So yes, I have to educate a lot.
Yeah, it's interesting you were saying, like, especially with some of the bigger companies that you work with, their sustainability department will be like 2 people and they're doing like 3 jobs. Like, that sounds like it would be like such a hurdle to navigate, because it's so much more than just what does the law require? Like, what reports do I have to do? Or going beyond saying that you're being sustainable or bragging about one small thing that you're doing. It has to be involved in the strategy. So what would the ideal setup be for a company that wants to focus on sustainability? So having it involved in the full strategy, and what else would that look like?
For example, a business that are starting now, for example, they could be a good idea if they think about sustainability in every decision that they take. For example, if I need specific raw material, you should think where I can get my raw material. Maybe I have a local provider that can provide me that thing, or if I have to search a foreigner producer or something, like, that's not bad, but do the best decisions for your business and for you in general. Or for example, if you need to hire people, maybe you want to have a bigger social impact and you should have younger people than senior people, like it's take better decision in every steps of your chain. And now that inspires you to like to think in general, like to think about the future.
Yeah, it sounds like really having a clear idea of what your goals are for sustainability and in what areas, and then implementing in every area of the business. So like you were talking about how you're deciding on choosing the suppliers, or how you're deciding on like how you're doing hiring. How can it be in every area versus like just the sustainability department or just the communications and compliance?
And also, I like to say that it's fine if you as a small business or a medium business can't manage the three aspects of sustainability. That's totally fine. You can do everything at the same time. But it's like you educate yourself to between your business's growth, you can make better decisions, you can make better things. You can start for the social aspect, or you can start for the packaging aspect, for example. You don't need to do everything at the same time. It's step by step.
Yeah, and that's such a valid point to bring. I think when we talk about doing good, or like even like eating clean or recycling, there's so much like shaming of people that goes into it. It's like, no, you should be doing this, or you're not doing it good enough. So you may as well not do it at all. But I think it's a really important thing to say, like, especially for small and medium-sized businesses, you're not going to be able to do everything. And pick an area of focus. Like, this is what we want to be able to tackle, and commit to that and incorporate that throughout your business.
Yeah, the best tip that I could give to the audience is the first is think about your baseline. I mean, not only with the environmental things or topics, but in general, think what is more important for you. For you, it's more important the raw materials, or for you, it's more important the social being of your employees. Think about what's more important for you and for your company, and then you can take better decisions in time to time.
Yeah. And one thing that I've seen in like impact reporting for companies who are who want to be transparent about what they're doing is that they're just open and honest with where they are. Some goals that they have achieved, some they're still working toward improving. And if they're doing really horrible in an area, what I see people really appreciate is that they're just open about it. I say, okay, we got really high carbon because we are shipping by plane. However, this is what we're doing to be able to change that. Or like bringing the customer into that decision making. So are you okay with receiving your order, maybe a week or two later, because we can deliver it in a batch with some other people? And that's something that people really appreciate, to be able to be part of that decision making and working with the company to reduce the emissions or whatever their specified areas that they want to.
That's true. We as a customers, and we as a millennials, for example, for us, it's more important that transparency, that bad actions, like, for example, greenwashing.
Yeah.
So if you as a brand have mistakes, which is totally normal, it's better that you can think about how are you communicate that mistake or that thing, but not communicate, I don't do that, I'm perfect. So for us as a customer, as a clients, is very important transparency and ethical business.
Yeah, absolutely. Even when it's not perfect.
Even when it's not perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, me as an environmental engineer, people think I should do everything well the whole time, and that's not true. I also have mistakes. I also drink plastic beverage and things like that, but it's time to time.
Yeah.
And I can do everything well the whole time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I saw a really great example from a skincare brand. This was several months back, so I don't remember the name of the brand, but a huge batch of their orders, the packaging of the product itself, it was like a night cream or something like that. It wasn't refillable, and some customers complained about it.
Complain?
Uh-huh.
Why?
Because they were like, because their customers really care about the environment. And so instead of like trying to save face, because most of their other products like came in refillable and like reusable containers, but this one for whatever reason didn't. I think it was just a mistake, like a big one. So they were just like super transparent about it. They're like, oh, hey, sorry, we're going to change this. But just so you know, this is what we're working on. This is the reasoning why like this happened, whether it was a mistake or it was necessary for the resources that they had at the time. But I thought it was cool just to like publicly take ownership of it and invite the customers to that conversation.
That's an amazing example. I love that. Because if I was a client of that brand, that made me think like, for the days, this is important. And me as a customer are important for they don't only want my money. They also are considering different aspects. So that's very good practice.
Yeah. I feel like we probably all had an experience where we are shopping with a brand. They either change the formula or they change the packaging, and it like changes your experience. So I'm sure for their customers, they're like, wait a minute, we've always been able to refill. Like, what's going on? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or for example, when a brand changes the beverage packaging, usually it should be plastic. That I think that plastic is not a bad thing. It's a controversial. I know. What? Because if you, as a country, have the current infrastructure to recover materials, that could be so much better than if you have paper packaging, for example. And what's the end of that? So
right, because you can't reuse that, or can you recycle it?
It's pretty hard to reuse paper packaging or green packaging. That's not true, actually. You can do that maybe in some countries in Europe because they have that kind of infrastructure, and that's fine. But in Latin America, we don't have that kind of structure. So if you, as a company, and you educate your consumers, plastic can be your friend and not your enemy.
Mm-hmm. I think it's so important what you mentioned, like the context. It's not a flat answer that this is the solution everywhere, because it also depends where.
Where are you? Where are your company? Who are your clients? It's not the same if your clients are Gen Z or your clients are millennials, for example, because we don't have the same concern about many things. So yeah, you have to think about where are you in this moment, where are you selling, which kind of products are you offered to your clients or your audience.
Are there any trends in sustainability that you're excited for?
Yes, there is one trend that I'm very excited for, and I have speak about this in our conversation. It's about the social aspect, about how customers are asking to the companies to get more inclusion. And inclusion is not only women empowerment, I love that, but inclusion is also how you can have your office or your infrastructure, but it's also, there are people there with disabilities that need to work. And inclusion is that, how you can get a better environment for that kind of person, for young people, LGTB plus community, and inclusion is a very important topic now, and it's taking more importance now thanks to us and thanks to the customers, thanks to the people who are thinking more about social than about environmental aspects, for example.
Like how they completely tie together.
Yeah, exactly. That's one thing, inclusion. Human rights, for example, which is very similar. But now people is wonder, this is not new, 5 years ago from now, but thinking is wondering, why if I am a woman and I'm doing the same job that a man, why I'm not earning the same amount, for example. So now the big companies making, for example, gender policies. Okay, if you have these skills, no matter if you're a woman or you're a man, you have to get that kind of money, for example. And in general, inclusion, human rights, and that kind of social aspects in the work environmental is getting more important now.
So you're excited about the social aspect?
I'm very excited. Yes. Maybe the people is expecting that me as an environmental engineer thinking about, I don't know, less plastic or
But you like plastic?
or reduce emissions to reduce the climate change. Yes, that's important, but people are working a lot on that actually, and governments are working a lot about that. Not everything is perfect, but I think the social aspect needs more attention now, and that's happening now, and I'm very happy for that.
I see. So when you think about what you want to be remembered for, whether it be related to your work or just in general, what does that look like for you?
Very hard question. Me as a professional, I think I would like that people remember me than like people think about me like a young woman, which is not afraid to speak the truth to the companies, to the people who have to take better decisions. I want to say that me as a woman, I don't feel afraid to speak loud about why sustainability, why social and environmental aspects are important for everyone.
Well, that sums up the interview. Thank you so much for coming. I feel like this was a really amazing conversation. Like, I learned a lot, and I'm sure it's going to be super valuable for everyone who watches too.
I'm really happy to be here. Thank you for having me here. Everything gonna be fine.
Okay.
So yes.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks to you.